We are live.
We are live. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the critically acclaimed titled The Fucked Up Man. Let's talk about mental health. I'm here with the legendary author, motivational speaker, international legend, suicide survivor, and so much more than that, Mr. Chris Stockil. How are you, brother?
Hey mate, how you doing? It's great.
I'm very well.
It really is. Really
Yeah,
is.
it's really
Thank you for the introduction. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here, brother. And obviously we're going to dive in more so people know more about you and your story. We were having a great conversation off air, and I feel like I said to Chris, I said, "Oh, let's just hit live," because I feel like we're spitting bars already and talking about World War II and comparing it to the mindsets of today with the pandemic that we're going through, which is why this whole series is called Pandemics of the Mind. Chris, we were just having a dialogue, and I think it'd be really good to just pick up where we were. Like, How have you found this lockdown? You just said some really key things there about you've been learning not just more about the world, but also about yourself. So I'd love to know, firstly, tell people a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll get into what you've really been learning about this pandemic and your mental well-being and how you've looked after yourself during it.
Yeah, of course. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen. For me, I'm 35 years old. My name's Chris Stockil. I'm now classed as an international speaker, coach, mindset coach, and I do these things, and I've learned these things through creating a new world for me from within, and then creating leaders. I believe the world needs more leaders right now, so I allow people to create a leader within themselves and find it within themselves to then pass it on, because leaders create leaders, and I believe that the more leaders you create, the more leaders will be created, and the more we can change the world. So 5 years ago, my life was completely different. I was in darkness. I was heavily addicted to drugs, drink, lifestyles that were semi in jail or even dead. And I didn't see a way out. It was completely different now. It was like I was addicted to escaping real life because I was going through something in my life that I didn't know how to handle it. So, for instance, depression, I didn't know anything about emotions. I'm a man. I was 32 years old. I was always taught to be strong. I was always, boys don't cry, and it's not, I wasn't brought up in a dysfunctional way by my parents. They are who they are. And it's just the way the world was, that boys are supposed to be strong, and it had that much pressure. And because I had two brothers, and for some reason my older brother would always listen to me and my younger brother would listen to me. So I become like the parent of the brothers. And that put a lot of pressure on me. And through my whole life, I was okay. And then I always believed that something wasn't right within me, like I had to be someone else to be liked. And all I wanted in life is to be liked. And we all want that, right? We all want to be liked by people. We all want to feel that we've got friends, feel that we're liked, feel that who we are is a fun person to be around, and like fulfillment. But I was being someone else to get that fulfillment, and that created manic within me from an early age. So I used to have suicidal thoughts at the age of 12, and I started getting bullied at school. So I was getting bullied at school, and it was like physical bullying and name calling. And, I had a dog that had just died, and people would always say that to me. Oh, your dog's just dead. And, it used to be my dog. So it was like, a dog is part of the family. Anybody that's got pets knows.
Kids are so kind, age 12, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's like, you think about when I was in that situation at school, I never really thought on how much effect it would have on me, because you just think, oh, this is part of life, some people are just going to say things. I just take them on. Maybe it's true, and as I went through life, I thought I used to cross over a train bridge, and I used to think to myself, well, if I just jumped in front of the train, this pain that I feel because I'm unliked, because I was craving to be liked so much, would stop. I never took action on that. That's why I'm still sat here today. But I had them thoughts, and I just thought life was normal. 12, 13, 14, going through school, the bullying stopped. But I carried on, and then there was a time in school that everyone was like, I was liked by a lot of people because I was the joker. I was would make people laugh. I always had this cheeky little smile, and everyone would be like, it was people would used to be like being around me because they felt good about themselves, because I'd make them feel good, because I knew how it felt to feel empty. And that's from a young age. And then when I got to 17, 18, 19, the drug taking started, the drinking started, that lifestyle started. And because when you're out and about and you seem to have more confidence because you've had a drink, it's because realistically you're not bothered on what people think about you. You feel like you're more liked again, and and when I used to hang around with a lot of people, we used to be in big groups in pubs, and we'd have fun, and people would be ringing me saying, "Chris, come out, man, come out, let's go out tonight, let's go out." That's 7 days a week, and I just think, wow, people love me for who I am. And that went on for a while until about the age of 20. So what am I now? 35 now, about 30, and then I had a situation in my life which took over me. I had no control over it, and because I had no control over it, I went into like destruction. I literally went into self-destruction, and I wanted to escape the nightmare that I was living, but I loved life. Like, life to me was good. I thought, I like life. If you actually sit back and think, I'm here on a planet that's floating around in the universe, experiencing this experience that we're having, connecting with other people, because I'm very good at connecting with people. I'm very good at having close connections and just understanding people. And I don't know whether it's because of what I've been through, and we've all been through similar pains. And for me, it was, I wanted to escape the nightmare that I was living, because I was in a situation where I was like, oh, I can't control this. So the depression came on. And because I felt depressed, my first thought in the morning would be like, I don't want to be here. I wish I was dead. And that was my very first thought in the morning. Literally, my eyes would open. I would feel this feeling come up my body, like, and it was not, I didn't know at the time, but it was anxiety. I know it's anxiety now, where my chest would go tight and my legs would be like shaking, and I'd think, what's this? And then my first thought was, another day in this world. Do I really want it? I'd rather be dead. And from that moment, I was thinking, I'm diving deep into it. And the only way I got out of it was by drinking and taking drugs at that time, because I didn't know any other way.
It was an escape.
Yeah. And that's when we talk about addictions. For me, this is my own personal opinion. I'm not no scientist, I'm not no doctor, and there's no facts behind this, but I believe that every single person in life is an addict.
Yes.
And I don't believe it as in, because we have, if you say the word addict to people, automatically they have a negative reaction to it. Addict? No, I'm not. If you look at the word addict, addiction, it's not just if you see a needle on the floor or you see Class A drugs around. It can be, okay, cool, do you drink coffee? Yeah, I drink coffee. Okay, tomorrow, don't have one coffee. Well, I couldn't do that. So therefore, you're actually an addict. Yes. You're addicted to coffee. Yes. It can be the gym. You could say to somebody, don't go to the gym for one day. Oh, I can't do that. I know that the gym's healthy and it's great for the mindset, but if you're addicted to the gym, it can also have the negative effect.
Health disorders, we talk anorexia, all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. If you're absolutely, and I believe it's from the moment we are born, children have that love either from the parent in that moment or the nurse in that moment, because if they didn't have that initial connection of love, they say that kids would die. And I believe from that moment you feel that love, you want that love for the whole of your life. So you will use your different ways to try and get it. It will be, if you don't get it, you'll try and, some people self-harm. People, in my eyes, people that self-harm is because they're trying to get something from that emptiness they're feeling. I remember I self-harmed when I was a kid, and I was doing it because I believed if I self-harmed and hurt myself, my mum would give me more attention than they'd give my brothers. So therefore I'd feel that connection. That's what I was doing.
Yes.
And it builds on to so much. And then as soon as I was 30 years old, going through this, and I was in a depressive state, I was anxious, I was still working, and I was still being called Smiler. People would say to me, "Oh, Smiler, let's go out." How can you be going through depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, attempted suicide, but people are looking at you saying, "You look really happy all the time, you're all smiling"? For me, it was because I was very, very good at hiding who I really was, because I've been doing it since I was 10, 11, 12 years old, from when I was getting old. And in that moment, life was getting harder and harder. And I started having thoughts about, how can I end this pain, but not be classed as a coward if I take my own life? Because, people say, oh, you're selfish if you take your own life. And I completely understand that, because I've had that thoughts before, when I've heard some people do it. Oh, it's a bit selfish. They've got kids or they've got family around. But that's before you find yourself in a situation. when you find yourself in your situation, your perception of that situation completely changes.
Yes.
You know, even like when you were saying about how's the pandemic affected me at the moment, because we're now all in it. I've actually caught COVID-19 at the start of this year. This time last year, when we were going into March, and we were going March, April, June, I was like, oh, okay, you know, it's probably just a cold. I'm healthy. It won't affect me that much. I had it at the start of this year, and it put me in bed and on the sofa. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. And I still suffer now with my workouts and all of this sort of stuff. So I was thinking, maybe this isn't just a flu, a cold. Yeah, it might not be as bad as the media's making out, you know, and all that sort of stuff, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yes, it is.
But for the actual virus that's out there, it is out there, and it is something to be cautious about.
Yes.
Due to older generations, due to vulnerable people, you know, you don't want to be the course of passing it on to people that could then potentially die, because, you know what I mean? So, but when I was going back through what I was going through, my depression and my anxiety days, I was driving to work one morning, and I was thinking, how can I get out of this pain without anyone knowing how I actually feel? And then I started driving along. I was thinking, what tree? I see trees, and I was going, maybe if I slide the car off, it will look like an accident, but I can make it look deliberate, you know. And I was going into in-depth thinking of how big the tree needs to be, how fast I need to go, what day would be good, because I didn't want to cause anyone else any problems. It just wanted to be me, because I'm not going to take someone else with me. And then in that very moment, I was working at the time, and we went out on a work do, and we went to a pub, and this girl started talking to me. She was like, how you doing? You all right? I said, yeah, cool. And because I worked in a place where there's like 140, 150 people, I didn't know everybody, and I'd never seen this person before. And she started talking to me, and I was like, yeah. And the funny thing is, she lived in the same place I did, and we were the only two that lived in this town from where I worked. You know, I live in Leamington, and I worked in Coventry. We were the only two people from Leamington, and we started talking. And she said, oh, I have to walk to the train station, get the train, and walk from the train station to work every single morning, every single evening. I said, I drive. I said, where do you live? In Leamington. She was like, she lived 2 minutes away from my house. I drove past the house every day. And she said, oh, why don't I just get a lift with you? So that stopped the thinking, you know?
Yes.
In that very moment.
Like a pattern interrupt.
Yeah, 100%. And because now I've got someone else sat in the car with me.
You can't do it now.
That's completely took that option away.
Yeah.
She had no idea that she was like my guardian angel in that very moment. And then for 6 months, I was giving each other lifts. But the thoughts for me were still the same. And I thought I couldn't open up or understand. And I'll always remember this girl. And in the end, she became a girlfriend, right? And she said to me, have you ever read the book, The Slight Edge? I said, no, never read of it. And she gave me the book, and I started reading it. And for me, that was my very first personal development book. And it's just different ways of different stories within the book, that how you can make positives and make things out of the situation that you're in, you know. I always remember this one that they were saying, like, there was the frog in cream, and one of them just sat there and died, and one of them would spin around that much to make it into like thick cream and yogurt, so we could end up getting out of it, you know, getting out of the jar and things like that. Whatever you're in, you know, it's like when you see there's a picture, there's a meme that goes around on social medias where you see two men with a ladder and a high wall, and one of them sets fire to the ladder to keep himself warm, and one of them builds it to get out, you know.
Yes.
What you've got in that moment to get you out of the situation that you're in.
Yeah. And
that did trigger something within me, but it wasn't enough to associate pain with what I was doing, so I'd move away from it.
Okay.
And it got to the stage where I gave up. And if there's anybody watching now and this has triggered anybody, please get in contact with Miles, get in contact with myself.
Or you.
You're never alone. You know, please reach out to somebody, because I know sometimes my story can trigger some people, and I would never want that. I just want you to know that I've been there, I'm still here, and you are exactly the same as me, and you can do exactly the same.
Yes.
That's something that I'll always promote, is you are never alone. So please, if this is triggering you, reach out to anyone. That's the one good thing about smartphones, is we can see, ring anyone in the world.
Yes.
And I remember one day I just gave up. I was like, for me, it was too hard. And I remember I remember it was a Friday morning, and I should have been at work, and I had the day off because I was so down and depressed, and I just gave up, and I thought, I'm done. And I thought to myself, I am done. And I got up off my bed and I walked over to the blinds where I sat, and the string or rope on the blinds, I just wrapped that round my neck at the very moment, and I dropped to the floor. I could touch the floor with my feet, but I didn't want to. I'd given up. You know, when you just give up, and so I was like, and I just dropped. And to this day, I have no idea how this happened, where it come from. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. But my grandma, she died when I was 15 back in 2001. 2000, sorry. And she appeared in front of me. And she says, "This, am I allowed to swear on this show, or is it?" And
you've seen the title of the show.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly, but I just got in the car and I thought, I can say it. And she said, her exact words to me were, "What the fuck are you doing?" Her face was in front of me, and so I managed to get out of there, and I sat on the bed, but then the guilt and the shame kicked in. And the whole time I was going through this, because this is now like 1 year to 18 months to 2 years, I was addicted to drugs, drink. I was in depression. I was in anxiety. And I remember going to, and this is where the story started changing for me for the better. So stick with me and you'll understand how it just completely all just transformationed. And I remember going to the chiropractor because I had a bad back at the time. And my chiropractor, we both know. So Anna Garstin, right? She was my chiropractor. And your body will say things that your mouth won't and your eyes won't. You can cover up any story, but your body will hold stress. And she was saying, "Chris, over the last few weeks, probably a couple of months, I've been noticing that you're smiling, you're happy, you're bouncing around telling me that life is good, but your body is like stiff." And I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. And did you just hear that background music then?
Yeah, it's fine. That's okay.
That's not. Let me just log out.
What is it? A WhatsApp notification? Yeah, it's fine. No
it's my WhatsApp notification, and I know it's a group message. You might hear it for the next 10, 20 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah, Anna said to me, she said, are you really feeling all right? And that's the very first moment that I remember I had that lump in my throat, and I was like, and I wanted to speak out because I've always wanted to speak out about how I felt, but I never really knew.
Yes.
And I was like, and I just remember then the ego kicked in. It was like, yeah, I'm fine. I've got to go. And she said, all I'll say is that, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? And I was like, no. I said, who's this dude? And I was like, no, I haven't. But she put the seed in my mind. So I went home. I was still on the drugs, still on the drink. I remember one night I was actually quite high at the time, and I YouTubed Tony Robbins, and I thought, let's see who this guy is. You know, this woman's mentioned him to me.
Yeah.
And I remember a video, and I don't think it was posted by Tony Robbins. It was probably another person, but it was called Daily Disciplines. And I clicked play, and as I clicked play, it was only like 6 or 7 minutes long, but it was like he was talking to me. Because everything in my life I referenced to what he was talking about. So like he knew me, and I was like, now he's sort of like, somebody gonna come through the door and say, hey, you know, oh, Chris Stockil, you're live on telly, and this guy's all been set up, you know. And I was like, how's that? And so it completely interrupted my thought process. I was like, it's time for me to change my life. It's time for me to see what this. So I started listening to more videos, and it was making me feel better. Like I was starting to feel like grateful for things, positive about the life that I was living, because I wasn't focusing on the nightmare that was happening in my life.
Yes.
And as you all know, and me and some of the people that are watching or listening, when you focus on a problem, the problem can be very, very small in that moment. But as soon as you give it the energy and give it the focus, it's fully in your face.
Absolutely.
And then it goes from being a hurdle to a wall, and you're like, oh God, how do I get over this now? And that's what I was doing. But this interrupt, I was changing my way. And what I used to do is from where I live to my work used to be 30 minutes. And by this time I was traveling back on my own, because the girl that saved my life had left. And
Because you didn't need her as your angel anymore.
This is where I now look at life, and I understand why people say that people come into your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know? And as I used to drive to work, I was on my own, so I was like, how can I benefit from this 30-minute drive? You know what? I'm going to watch videos or just listen to them. Every day I'd listen to them, and then people were saying to me, all right, Mr. Motivator, this is what they used to now calling me at work. And I was thinking, how can you be called Mr. Motivator, but secretly you've got depression, you've got anxiety? How are you going to explain this to anybody?
You've gone from Mr. Smiler to Mr. Motivator now.
That's it, Mr. Smiler to Mr. Motivator. But behind the scenes, me is still feeling broken, dark, you know, battling my thoughts, battling my emotions daily, which is draining and tiring.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember driving to work, and I used to feel good, and it made me feel good, but I was still doing the drugs still, because I thought, I feel better if I can do both. You know, I can balance my life.
Yes.
Still can't. Every time I was doing the drugs, it was enhancing the depression, the anxiety, and all that sort of stuff. And then I remember, again, due to smartphones, this is like synchronicity. So you've had the girl that's come into my life, stop me from doing something stupid in my life, and then all of a sudden the news has flashed up on my phone, and I'm not one for watching the news, right? I didn't even know at the time that my news notifications were switched on. And it was switched on, but it was a local news, and it was that a man had been pulled out of his car at the traffic lights by people on quad bikes and beaten up. And I remember looking at it thinking, well, that's strange. And again, that was in Coventry where I was living, where I was working, sorry. And as I looked at it, you get advertisements and like adverts pop up.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, UPW, and I thought, free. And I was thinking, there's that guy again. That guy just appeared on my phone again. You know, I've been listening to him every day, feeling good. And now there's like a workshop that you can go and see him. And to me, I used to be a car technician, right? So a workshop to me was somewhere where you took your car and your car got fixed.
Yes.
I didn't know you go to a workshop and you can fix your mindset, or you can improve or transform your life. So it said for free as well. And in my head, I was thinking, I'm going to meet this guy.
Tony's going to be in Birmingham for free. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been there. Yeah.
So I was like, I put my email address in, put my name in.
Yeah.
The email come through Saturday at 10 o'clock, 3 hours. I thought, yes.
Yeah.
And then at the time I was still struggling with anxiety, social anxiety. I couldn't go out without a drink or a drug, but I was like, it was now the 5th of August 2017. And I was like, I'm going to stop everything. So I stopped everything. And the week later, I went to this Tony Robbins UPW workshop. And I was very nervous. I had like a school bag on, and it was like my first day at school. And I arrived at the Cube in Birmingham to go to this event, and there was probably 200-300 people. And my initial thought was, do a U-turn, get out of there, you know, run, escape. And in that moment, I was like, oh, and I was battling myself. You know, when you have inner conflict, you're battling yourself.
Yeah.
And so I rang the girl I was with at the time and said, look, I can't do it. And she said, look, I'm proud of you for even getting that far. That gave me enough to get me in the door.
That's great.
In the door, sat down, and then all of a sudden they're like, right, the speaker's going to come on. You know, you get the guy that comes in at the start, and he gets you all bouncing around the room, which at the time I thought was very strange. But now I understand why, to change your state. And they introduced the speaker, and the speaker comes to the stage, and it wasn't Tony Robbins. And I was like, so I was looking around the room thinking, where's this guy? This absolute #1 performance coach it was probably back then, it was like 38, 39 years, you know, and I'm like, where is he? But this other guy come on. And the whole way through my depression and my anxiety, I was thinking, how can I speak to people? How can I say how I feel? How can I make sure that no one in the world is feeling how shit I feel and how down I feel? And then the moment this bloke started talking, I looked up and I thought, I could do that. I could stand on stage and do what he's doing. And I thought, and then you have that voice in your head, you know, that voice that we all have, and it's like,
you are.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't talk to your chiropractor. How can you talk to a room of 3 people? And so yeah, this is where it turned around for me, and I waited after the event. because I related to this bloke's story. Some of his story was like, it was like he was living my life and we'd had the same life. So I wanted to speak to him, but I wanted to be the last face he's seen in that day. So I was in the queue, people would come behind me, I'd leave, I'd walk around, I'd get back in the queue and all of this sort of stuff. And I remember him looking at me, probably thinking, what's going on here? This guy's been in the queue, out the queue, in the queue, out the queue. Anyway, I explained everything that I've just took 25 minutes to explain. And I explained that in probably 2 minutes to this guy. And it was like verbal diarrhea. And I remember his face just going, and he said, yeah, I can help you. And I went to his event, which is the event called Awaken. And that completely changed my whole perception of life and everything. And I started to understand where everything had come from, where the pain that I was feeling had come from, where the trauma that I was carrying from a child had come from, and my perceptions, because life, this is one thing, is life is all about perceptions. Like, we have this thing called reality, but everybody's reality is different.
Yes.
You know? So I asked myself the question, is reality real? Well, because what is reality? Reality to me is completely different to what it is to you, Miles, and it's completely different to the next person. So you can't say reality is just one thing. So is it real? No, it's individual reality, I believe. We all have our own reality of the world and our own perceptions. And if anyone's watching and listening, what are your perceptions right now of the world, of your life, of experiences, of friends in your life? Because
of the pandemic.
Exactly, of the pandemic. What's your perceptions? And sometimes we don't ask ourselves this question. So we just go into pilot mode and we live life. But if you sit there and think, right, what's my perception of my partner? What's my perception of my friends? What's my perception of this pandemic, of life?
Yeah.
You start getting answers, and when you put the awareness, when you bring it into your conscious mind, you will understand that you can then change them perceptions, which will change the energy that you have for that, which will change the emotions that are attached to it. And we can go in, this conversation could go on for days about where you could be. But my first question to everyone is, what's your perceptions of life? What's your perceptions of everything within your life? Not your partner's perceptions, because they're completely different.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say a great example of this is, if you're stereotypically watching and you live in a country that has a lot of rain, so if you're watching in the UK and there's a lot of rain, what are the words that you associate to rain? Because often the media words are miserable, gloomy. They're the only ones I can think of at the moment. But if you go to, I don't know, I'm just making up an example, but if you go to a country in, say, Africa, where there's a really low amount of rainfall, the perception of rain is like solution to the famine, means our family can eat for 6 months, like dance in it because we haven't had it for 9 months. You know, it's like completely different. It's just to highlight the point Chris is making about perception.
Totally agree. I can totally agree with you. And I believe that perceptions with certain situations and certain circumstances that happen in our lives, don't get me wrong, life is very, very hard. Life is very, very hard. You know, it's not no easy ride. And I don't compare lives. Like, I don't say that my story is worse than anyone else's. I don't compare lives. I just say yours is what it is. It's how we can respond or react to that situation of who we are. And life can be very, very hard. So understanding your perceptions can give you that little release of, well, actually, I could look at it this way, or I could look at it that way. And I remember watching a video online from, again, another one of our very good friends, JP, and his wife. And they did a relationships video, and it was like the number 6 was written on the floor to JP, was looking down, and it was the number 6. And his wife was stood the other end and looking down and seeing number 9. And they were arguing, it's 9, it's 6, it's 9. And they said, hold on, why don't we look at it from each other's point of view? Yeah. And they swapped it and seen a complete different perception. Yeah. And something as small as that, they went, oh my God, actually from your point of view, it is a 6. And from yours, it is a 9. So you're not wrong and I'm not wrong. And you're not, you know, we're both just, it is what it is. And when you can take on other perceptions,
for example,
you widen your whole perception of life, which creates more understanding. I've spoken to now in the last few years, thousands of people through suffering and going through what they've been through, and heard some very horrendous, horrific stories that people have been through. And I mean, like, horrific, and they've been victims of crimes, but they are stood on stages and completely impacting thousands of people, you know, because they've used that pain that they went through and they've changed the perception on it, and they've made it the power that now drives them to allow people to become who they really are and how magnificent we really are, you know. And when you can start looking at life like that and changing stuff, you start understanding, and the more stories you hear, the more perceptions you get, the more understanding you become. So when somebody may say something that doesn't match your perception, instead of you reacting in an unhealthy way, you can say, actually, I understand why you would say that and why you would get to that, the end procedure, or the end vote, or whatever I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
And when you get there and you make that end decision, I know why you have, because I've now actually walked your footsteps up into it and thought your thought process, you know, instead of just saying, well, that's mine. Because again, it's like love. How many people right now are in love? How many people have their own perception of what love is, because they may have learned it off their parents,
Yeah.
they may have learned it off their friends when they were growing up, or anything, that whoever was looking after them. But how many ways in life are there to show someone that you love them? Loads, right?
Yes.
But if you don't get the love in your one perception, you believe that you're unloved. You believe they don't love you. Whereas if you can open up and say, actually, that's their love language, that's the way they show love. And we both have two different rules in life. Like, my rule is I show love this way. She might show love this way. He might show love, whatever, your partner. And as soon as you can start understanding that we're not all the same, you will then become more, and I believe it's more calm within yourself. And when you become more calm within yourself, that's when you drop into your heart and your head. That voice quietens down a little bit, and then you start becoming in flow. And don't get me wrong, you won't always be in flow. Life will throw some hurdles at you. I hear the pandemic of 2020, you know, the world needed waking up to understand that what we had in front of us. So the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is the bigger than what we are.
Yeah.
Sent us all back to our houses, our rooms, to say, look, focus on what you have in your now, focus what you have in your life. And I know it's been an absolute horrendous time for some people. People have lost their job, people have lost their businesses, they've lost loved ones. I'm not taking any of that pain away from anybody. It's absolutely horrific, you know. But can you look at this perception and think, right, that's out of my control in that very moment. What can I focus on that is in my control, that's going to allow me to get through this rough time that we're all going through? So on the other side, I can say, I'm not going to let this drag me down. I'm going to let this be another light in my fire, another spark in my fire, another, you know, push forward to get where I want to get. So yeah, things like that. And I think life is a roller coaster. And if you've been on a roller coaster, it's not just plain sailing. It's upside down, it's sideways, it's backwards. Sometimes you get stuck in them, and it's how you look at it. So you just allow yourself to take on other perceptions in life.
Beautiful, beautiful. I feel we could keep going, but I almost feel that we've come to a natural conclusion. I feel like we can fill people's minds up, or we can leave them in that change your perception, change your procedure. Analyze how you look at things. I couldn't think of anything more profound to finish on today, Chris.
Awesome. It's been absolutely amazing to be here. It's been great to see you, listen to you. And I know that, you know, when we were talking before, you were saying, how's the pandemic affected you? And it opens doors of conversations, and you can have many conversations. If there's anybody watching that wants to connect, if anybody that I know that's watching that wants to connect with Miles is a fantastic guy. And anyone the same, if anyone wants to follow any journeys, because I believe if you want more positivity in your life, follow people that you find inspiring, positive. You know, you can learn something every day. Learn one thing a day, and think how far along you're going to be in your life in a year, in 2, 3 years. And you get to meet people like Miles on the way, who's absolute rock star.
Bless you, brother. Chris, how can people connect with you? It's probably it's a silly one now, isn't it? Everybody knows, really. But what's the best way for people to follow you, stay connected with you, just get to know you more? What's the best way for them to do that?
The first way is, I'll probably say Instagram. I've just created a new Instagram account this year. I just wanted to change up a bit. So Instagram for me, I did stop using Facebook for the last few months just because of the pandemic talks that goes on in there and the arguing, it become very, very negative. But I'm still active on Facebook, as in Messenger. So Facebook Messenger, just type in my name, Chris Stockil, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook. I also have a LinkedIn page. And yeah, and I will always try and get back to people's messages. But again, my message is just be who you are, be authentic to you, and just allow your perceptions to transform your life.
Amazing. Chris, thank you for being on the show, brother.
Legend. Thank you, mate.
Pleasure.
Take care.
Big love.
Later.